and welcome to Tuesday Community Connections. You know, we just on Sunday celebrated Reformation Day, a big day for you and I as Lutherans as we celebrate Martin Luther nailing those 95 Theses onto the door and what really was the beginning of who we are as the Lutheran Church and the Protestant Church as well. And then the very next Sunday, we celebrate another special day that's coming up this coming Sunday, All Saints' Day. Probably when you think of All Saints' Day, you think of remembering the people who died during the past year. And we, as many churches, have the tradition of showing pictures of those who died and whose funerals were held here at our church during the past year. A way of remembering the saints. We started a tradition just a few years ago where you could come up on All Saints' Day and light a small tea candle and set it out with all of the other candles there that other people had lit in honor and in memory of someone who was special to you. When you think of All Saints' Day, maybe you think of those kinds of things that we do. But I bet if you think of who is a saint or what is a saint, you may think of other kinds of things. Like usually we'll think of people like St. Paul or Mother Teresa, who was a saint and is called a saint, or the writers of the Gospels. You know, St. Matthew, St. Mark, St. Luke, St. John, St. Francis of Assisi. There's all kinds of saints that we can mention. If you look at names of churches, in particular Catholic churches, they often have names of saints. Saints are those people that we hold up and that revere, and saints are those people that we hold as those who show us God's presence in a special way. And so we celebrate All Saints' Day, where we remember those special people that led us in faith, but also those people who were meaningful to you and to me as well, those people who are alive today, people who showed us love, people who showed us God's presence, people who touched our lives, and people who made a difference by the way they impacted who we are and what we do and what we think and how we've learned. Saints probably are people that you and I think that, you know, we're not really a part of who that is. I'm not a saint. I mean, how many of us would say that? Oh, I'm no saint. You maybe have said that several times, as many people have. But if you think of what a saint is, certainly it is people like St. Francis and Mother Teresa and the writers of the Gospels and the disciples. Those people indeed were saints, those people that we read about from long ago who now are declared and called saints. But at the same time, as we celebrate on All Saints' Day, we include lots of people whose names aren't known all over the world or who don't have books written about them or days named after them. They're pretty ordinary people for the most part, yet we celebrate them on All Saints' Day. I think that's because we limit our definition of saints to those people who are so well known the world over or who have done amazing things in their lives many, many years ago, and we read about them and they've impacted Christianity as a whole in one way or another. But what Martin Luther defined as a saint was someone that all of us rather are saints, that we are at the same time saint and sinner. You and I indeed are saints, but at the same time, we're sinners. Luther said we're saints in the sense that God created us, God loves us, God has forgiven us. That makes us saints. God claims us. At the same time, we are human and we are sinful. And each day, all of us, no matter how hard we try, can't help but sin in one way or another. Not always large ways, but there are ways where we forget God or that we ignore our neighbor or that we push the lines a bit and do things that we ought not to do. We are sinful. I mean, that's why every Sunday morning we confess our sins because we know that God will forgive us. We are saints, beloved by God. We are saints, the hands and feet of God in the world. We are saints because God has declared us saints, but that doesn't make us any less a sinner. I really like the definition that was told to me a long time ago by through a story of a young boy who was with his mother. He was probably 4 or 5 years old. He was with his mother on errands around town, and they had to stop at the church, and she caught up with the person that she needed to talk to at the church in the church sanctuary. It was a beautiful day outside, and so the little boy, as any little child would do in a great big space like that, would be walking around and looking and running a little bit here and there. But what he noticed was that there was colored things on the carpet. There were stained glass windows in that sanctuary, and as the sun shone through, it made the colors appear on the carpet. So he would go from one blue square to the next blue square, or spot rather, or one orange spot to the next orange spot, and do all of those that were the same color. Then as he looked up at the windows to see where this is coming from, he saw that in those windows there were people, obviously old-time people with long robes on, and looked at each window, and there was somebody in every window. So when his mother finished with her discussion, he said to her, "Mom, who are those people?" And he pointed to the windows, and she looked at who they were and saw that they were disciples and saints of old, and so she said, "Oh, those are saints." He didn't ask any more questions, and she didn't say any more, and so he knew those were saints that were there in those stained glass windows. It wasn't much longer that in his Sunday school class, the teacher was talking about saints. And so asked the question, does anybody know who a saint is? Or what a saint is? And the little boy raised his hands and he said, "I know. Those are the people that the sun shines through." I love that definition. Isn't that really who saints are? The people who the sun shines through. And you can spell sun either way, right? We see God through these people around us. These people that we will celebrate, whose lives have ended during this past year, in one way or another showed us God, showed us God's love, showed us peace or patience, or took time for us and reminded us that we're not alone. You probably can name a lot of saints in your lives, ordinary people, but people who took time for you, people who taught you something, people who showed you something. I mean, I think of both my grandmothers. They were saints in my eyes, both very committed church people, both involved in everything that went on in their small country churches. I mean, whether it be a ladies' aid meeting, or quilting, or Bible study, or serving a meal, they were there. And I saw in their lives their commitment and dedication to serving. I also saw in their lives their commitment to reading their Bibles, and every night when I would stay with them, and I'm sure they did that even when I wasn't there, we'd go to bed and say our prayers every night. There wasn't a night that we didn't say prayers. I learned from them the importance of that routine and the importance of prayer. I learned that at home as well through my parents, who every night we would have prayers before we turned off the lights and went to bed. Saints. Saints who show us God's presence and remind us that God is where we are. And we see it often in small ways through people. So that makes me wonder and makes me think about this week as we move up to All Saints Day. How can we let the light shine through us this week? What is it that we can do to be God's hands and feet to others? There probably are things that you do every single day that you hadn't really thought about, but that show that God is there. Maybe you're giving to food to those who might be hungry, or helping a neighbor who's in need. You're a saint. A saint is one who the light shines through. Think about that's what we're called. Saints of God, God's hands and feet. And other people, through what we do, see God's presence and see that indeed the light is shining. And so this week, I would encourage you to do something else that's special. We've decided that what we're going to do on Thursday and Friday and Saturday of this week, from 1 to 6, our church building is going to be open. And we're going to invite you to come, not in groups, but on your own or with your family. We will have those small tea candles that we've used in worship services in the past few years sitting out with a lit candle there. We invite you to come in and light a candle in memory of somebody that was a saint to you. And then put that candle down in the tray that will be in sand. But we also will have the sanctuary open and invite you to come in, and if you would like to, after you have finished lighting your candle, to sit in the sanctuary for a while and pray. Now, a couple of things. First of all, masks are required. When you come in the building, we ask that you wear a mask, or we require that you do wear a mask so that we can keep everyone in the building safe. Know also that those candles will be sitting out there in the narthex, and so if you don't even want to come in as far as the office, you can just stop in the narthex behind the sanctuary and light a candle and leave immediately if that's what you would like to do. However, if you would like to go in the sanctuary and pray, as I said, it will be open and available to you. But once again, we ask that if you do that, that you keep your mask on and that you sit apart from other people who may be in there. You may indeed be the only one in there while you're there, and that's fine as well. But please stay separated from others, and please keep your mask on. It would be wonderful to have you come and to spend some time here in the sanctuary, and to spend some time to come and light a candle in honor of somebody. So again, that will be Wednesday and Thursday and Friday from 1 in the afternoon until 6 p.m. And so we invite you to stop. God bless you on this All Saints Day. God bless you as you think of the saints that have touched you and made a difference in your life. But God bless you as you let God's light shine through you and show that that indeed is who you are, a saint. Have a good week.